Okay, imagine this. You spend years, maybe completely lost in one specific story. Like a web novel you read every single update for.
You know it inside out, the world, the characters, maybe you even figured out the ending before it happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now picture that story, the one you know so well, suddenly just crashing into your real life.
And not gently, right? Like a full-on collision, genre breaking.
That's exactly the moment we're diving into today, right at the start.
Yeah, and it's more than just, fantasy meeting reality. The text itself, right from line 1, it's playing with big ideas. What is narrative? What does it mean to be a reader? How do we even categorize our own lives?
The source we're looking at today, the very beginning of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, it sets up this metafictional thing immediately. It questions that line between the story and, well, your story.
Absolutely. It's fascinating stuff.
So for this deep dive, we're hitting the absolute ground floor, the prologue, the start of chapter 1. We're going to meet the protagonist, Kim Dokja.
See his world, which is incredibly normal at first.
Right. And get into his head, how he sees things through these life genres. There's this interaction with a coworker that seems totally mundane.
Seems that way.
And then, boom, this huge event just rips his reality apart. It kicks off the whole series, changes all the rules.
And you really feel like every single detail in these opening pages matters. It's not just filler. They're planting seeds for, massive themes later on.
Destiny, free will.
Yeah, and the idea that maybe power comes from unexpected places, maybe even from someone who just reads stories.
So this is essential if you're into stories that kind of wink at you. If you love seeing the quiet guy become the main event, or how these huge worlds can explode from, well, a subway ride.
Let's get into it.
Okay, we start right where the text does, the chapter heading itself.
Which is Chapter 1, Episode 1, starting the paid service, 1, tells you something right there.
And that first line, I'm Dokja, simple, but the text immediately unpacks it.
Right. It points out the name has 2 meanings in Korean. It can be only son, or it can be reader.
And it even says people always get it wrong. They assume he means only son.
Which is so key. That dual meaning is like the foundation. His dad apparently named him hoping he'd be strong, this only son figure.
But the irony, as the text notes, is that the name sort of pushed him towards the other meaning. He became a normal, single, and lonely man.
The name itself shapes his whole self-perception, his isolation.
And that ties straight into what defined him, doesn't it?
The text says flat out, my hobby was reading web novels on the subway.
So his identity, lonely, shaped by this name, is completely wrapped up in being a reader, specifically web novels. He's Kim Dokja, 28. Single, lonely, reader. A very clear picture.
A quiet life. Unremarkable, seeming.
Until it's interrupted. He's on this noisy subway reading his novel, and a coworker, Yoo Sangah, spots him.
From HR, right. Human resources.
Yeah, and it's just normal workplace awkwardness at first.
Yeah.
She sees him, they do the pleasantries.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Are you going home from work? That kind of thing. Standard commute chat.
But even here, there's a little detail that hints at more. Dokja knows the office gossip about her. That, company guys drive her home.
Right. Rumors suggesting she's maybe treated differently, gets special perks.
But her actual answer is mundane. Surprising, even. Someone stole my bicycle.
Yeah, bicycle. You commute by bike, Dokja asks. It's small, but it cuts against those rumors, doesn't it?
Totally. It makes her seem more grounded, practical, riding a bike home after overtime.
And this is where Dokja's mindset really kicks in. He looks at her, sees she's appealing, understands why people like her.
But he immediately distances himself mentally. He uses his framework, his genre of life idea.
Yeah, he thinks every person had a genre of life, and Yoo Sangah was someone who lived a genre different from myself. He compartmentalizes her.
Her story's different. Polished, maybe.
Right.
Successful, like a mainstream romance or a corporate success genre.
Compared to his own, which he pegs as quiet realism. It's how he sorts everyone out, himself included.
And what she does next kind of reinforces that for him.
Yeah.
After the bike comment, they're both on their phones.
But she's not just scrolling. She's studying por favor dinero, Spanish.
Please give me some money. She even says it proudly, like, look at me using my commute time productively.
And for Dokja, that just cements it. She's actively working, advancing, living that different successful genre, he thinks, studying on the subway. She truly had a genre different from me.
But there's that little cynical thought too, isn't there? However, what was the use of memorizing words? Like a hint of his own feeling of stagnation.
Yeah, what's the point for him, maybe? Or just general resignation.
Then the conversation turns to reading. Books. Which you'd think might be common ground.
But even that just highlights the gap he sees. Yoo Sangah mentions authors like Murakami Haruki, Raymond Carver, Han Kang, literary fiction, critically acclaimed stuff.
And Dokja's internal thought is immediate. I thought so. He instantly categorizes her taste as, like, high literature.
Totally separate from his web novels. So when she asks him, Dokja, what writers do you like? He kind of freezes.
He knows his stuff isn't going to impress her, right? He thinks it is really hard to say that I read web novels as a hobby in this situation.
He even glances at the title he was reading, The World After the Fall by Xing Sheng Shang, and decides, nope, couldn't say that.
So he fudges it, gives a safe answer. It is just a fantasy novel that, well, like The Lord of the Rings. Something famous, acceptable.
And it works. Sort of. Her eyes widen. Lord of the Rings, I've seen the movie. It fills the gap, but you can feel the awkwardness.
Yeah, the conversation feels a bit stuck. So he changes the subject.
And unfortunately, he picks a topic that just underlines his own shaky situation. Work.
Oof. Yeah. He mentioned starting a year ago and how this is my last year.
His contract's almost up. He tries to build a connection. Like, remember when we both started? We both knew nothing, right?
But he immediately sees her face change and regrets it. He forgot, or maybe didn't fully process, that she just got promoted. Full-time employee last month after landing a deal with a foreign buyer. Ow, yeah. That's a stark reminder of how their paths are diverging. Big time. He tries to backpedal, offers a late congratulations, makes a joke about needing to study languages too, referencing her Spanish.
But even while being awkward, his brain is still analyzing. I hated to admit it, but the sight of Yoo Sangah talking was wonderful.
He sees her, almost like
a character in a story. It was like the world's spotlight was shining down on only one person. And he links it straight back to his genre theory.
Yep. If this world was a novel, the protagonist would be such a person. It's self-deprecating, but it shows how deeply ingrained this framework is.
He genuinely believes her success and his impending job loss are just inevitable. Because why?
In his mind, it's simple effort versus lack of effort. I hadn't tried, but Yoo Sangah made an effort. I just read novels on the internet while Yoo Sangah studied hard.
So for him, it's natural she gets promoted and he gets let go. His genre dictates it. His actions, or lack thereof, fit the realism script he's assigned himself.
And then she does something. Oh, it seems like a nice gesture. She offers to share her study app. That, Dokja, if you don't mind. Would you like to know the app I use? But for Dokja, hearing that offer, it doesn't land as helpful. It makes him feel disconnected.
Yeah, the text says, it felt like the world was far away. Her world, her effort, her app, it feels totally irrelevant to his situation, his genre. He just kind of braces himself and looks away.
And his eyes land on this kid across the way, maybe 10 years old, with an insect net, chatting happily with his mom.
And that triggers this really crucial thought, the one that basically predicts the earthquake about to happen.
He wonders, what if I had a different life from now? I mean, what if my life genre was different? Could I be the protagonist?
He actually lets himself think it for a second. Could he change his genre? Maybe realism to fantasy? Could he be the main character?
But he shuts it down almost immediately. I didn't know. It would probably be unknown forever. But in that moment of dismissing it, he kind of crystallizes who he believes he is right now.
And he says it out loud to Yoo Sangah, rejecting her app offer. It won't work even if you tell me the app. He's completely convinced.
The genre of my life was obviously realism. That's his declaration.
And his role in that genre? Dokja has a solo life. He even repeats it because she looks a bit confused. I am just someone like that. Not the hero, just a solo character, an observer.
Yoo Sangah looks serious. Maybe she picks up on something deeper than just job stress. He tries to brush it off, like, oh, she's just concerned because she's in HR.
And then she says something connected to her own name, Sangah, which means ivory. Then I will live an ivory life.
Huh. What do you make of that?
It feels like an affirmation, maybe? Of her own path, her own chosen genre, living up to her name, something valuable, refined perhaps, in contrast to his solo realism.
Interesting. So she goes back to her studying, and Dokja tries to go back to his novel.
But he can't. The screen feels blurry. He can't scroll right. That interaction, the reminder of his reality, his job ending, her success, it's weighing on him.
He calls it the weight of reality, making it hard to escape even into his fiction.
Okay, quick pause. Micro recap time.
Good idea. So what have we got? We've met Kim Dokja. His name means reader. He's lonely, feels ordinary, and sees the world through life genres. He's firmly placed himself as a solo character in a realism story.
Right. His subway chat with Yoo Sangah just reinforces this. He sees her as living a totally different, successful ivory life genre, built on effort he feels he lacks. He feels stuck.
We have this image. The quiet subway car, Dokja feeling the weight of reality, unable to even enjoy his novel. Everything feels perfectly normal, mundane even, right before it all breaks.
And remember that name, Dokja, reader. It's the key, the thread that pulls everything together next.
Okay, so the shift, it doesn't start with a crash or a bang. It starts quietly with a notification.
You have one new mail, and who's it from?
The author of Ways of Survival, the novel he was just struggling to read.
He opens it. It's brief. Reader Nim, my novel will become paid from 7 p.m. This will be helpful. Good luck. One attachment.
Reader Nim, addressed directly to him, because as we know, he was the only one who finished it.
Imagine getting that. After years of dedication, it's huge validation, personal connection.
He's stoked. Checks the time. 6:55 p.m. Just 5 minutes until the novel goes paid. A big deal in the web novel world.
So he thinks, okay, I gotta leave a congratulatory comment before it switches over. He goes to his favorite novels list in the app.
Tries to find Ways of Survival and gets an error message.
What?
The work doesn't exist.
Gone. A popular novel about to monetize just vanishes from the platform. That makes no sense.
It's the first real glitch in the Matrix. Something is fundamentally wrong.
And right then, as he's processing that digital impossibility, the physical world breaks.
At that moment, the subway lights turned off, and the inside of the train became dark. Total darkness.
Followed by chaos. Keep a dake. The subway train shook loudly and let out a metallic sound. Violent. Sudden.
People scream. Yoo Sangah grabs his arm hard. He actually notes the pain first. It's a grounding detail before the unreal happens.
The train screeches to a halt after maybe 10, 12 seconds.
Utter confusion. Shouting. People fumbling for their phone lights. Yoo Sangah is terrified, still holding on to him.
And Dokja, trying to maintain that realism framework, tries to rationalize it. Don't worry, it isn't a big deal.
His explanation. It is probably a disturbance from a suicide. A horrible thought, but logical within the bounds of normal city life. A way to make it make sense.
But as he's saying it, the engineer's voice comes over the intercom and then cuts off mid-sentence with a scream.
Everyone run away, run. Pure terror, not an explanation, a warning.
And the scene just dissolves. A mess, panic everywhere. Then these sensory details start hitting.
A bright light flashed from the front of the subway train. Then sound. There was a loud drumming sound followed by a pop.
And he sees something. Something was heading this way in the darkness. Then, the crucial detail, the anchor point. He sees the time.
7 p.m.
Exactly. The precise moment the novel was supposed to go paid. The timing is undeniable. It is the trigger.
Tick. It felt like the world was stopping. Reality itself seems to pause, syncing up with the fictional schedule.
And then the confirmation, not from a person, but from something else. A voice. Impersonal. Systemic. Delivering lines that sound like they're ripped straight out of a game.
Or a story. Read them again.
The free service of Planetary System 8612 has been terminated.
The main scenario has started.
Planetary System 86112. Main scenario. That's not real-world language. That's the language of the fiction Dokja consumes. It has no place in realism.
And the final line of the chapter. The absolute confirmation. The sentence that validates his earlier thoughts about genres, but in the most literal, terrifying way possible.
This was the moment the genre of my life changed.
Nailed it. It's official. His life, his self-defined realism, has just been forcibly, violently rewritten into something else entirely.
He, the reader, Kim Dokja, is now inside a narrative, governed by system messages unfolding in scenarios, just like the stories he read.
That's subway car.
Yeah.
A minute ago, it was just a symbol of his boring commute, the weight of reality. Now, it's stage 0 for a horrifying news story.
Okay, let's try and synthesize all that. This explosive first chapter.
We started with Kim Dokja. Defined by his name reader, defined by his hobby reading web novels, defined by his worldview life as narrative genres.
He saw himself as just a solo side character in a mundane realism plot. His chat with Yoo Sangah just seemed to confirm that gap between his quiet existence and her successful ivory life.
Then, reality fractured. It started subtly, an email from the author, the novel inexplicably vanishing from the app right at 7 p.m., the exact moment it was meant to go paid.
And immediately followed by physical chaos. The subway stopping violently, the lights dying, the engineer's terrified scream, all happening right around that 7 p.m. mark.
Then the game changer. Those impersonal system messages. Free service terminated. Main scenario started, using language straight out of fiction or games.
And Dokja gets it. Because of how he thinks, he understands instantly. His life's genre has changed. The reader is now a player, whether he likes it or not. The ordinary world is gone.
That 7 p.m. timestamp is the linchpin, isn't it? Connecting the fictional schedule of ways of survival directly to the cataclysm unfolding in his reality.
It's unmistakable. So let's bullet point the absolute must-knows from this opening. The flashcards for Chapter 1.
Okay. First, Kim Dokja. Name means only sun reader. Calls himself solo in a realism genre. Hobby, web novels on the subway. Crucially, the only reader who finished Ways of Survival, facing job loss.
Got it. Second, Yoo Sangah, coworker on the train, studies Spanish, reads literary stuff, just got promoted. Dokja sees her in a different, successful genre, Ivory Life. She's right there when it all starts. Witness.
Third, Ways of Survival. The web novel Dokja reads obsessively, supposed to monetize at 7 p.m. Author emailed Dokja just before, disappears from the app right when the disaster hits. Huge connection implied.
And fourth, The Shift, the main event. Triggered around 7 p.m. Violent subway stop, lights out, chaos. Engineer's warning cut short. Then the system messages. Free service terminated, main scenario started. Dokja's life genre officially, undeniably changes.
Okay, those are the facts. Now let's chew on some bigger questions, based only on what we've seen so far.
All right. First up, Dokja's name, Reader. How does that meta-level detail right at the end, when his reality becomes a scenario, frame everything that's about to happen? What role might just being a reader play?
Good one. Second, think about his genre of life idea and seeing himself as solo in realism. Does this sudden literal genre shift announced by the system confirm his framework in a twisted way, or does it completely blow it up? How does his story knowledge prepare him, or maybe even hinder him?
Third, that timing. The email, the novel vanishing, the scenario starting, all converging on 7 p.m. What does that strongly suggest about the link between the fictional ways of survival and Dokja's new, terrifying reality? Is one causing the other? Are they merging?
Fourth, why spend so much time on the mundane stuff? The office dynamics, the awkward chat, the stolen bike, studying Spanish on the train. How does grounding us so firmly in realism make the sudden shift to the fantastical more impactful? What's the effect of that contrast?
And last one. Based purely on the clues here, the engineer screaming, "Run!" The system talk of a main scenario, starting, what kind of situation do you predict is unfolding? What are the immediate dangers suggested by just these few details? What are the stakes?
Whew. Yeah, this chapter just drops us right off a cliff, doesn't it? It sets up this incredible premise. The ultimate reader, the guy who felt like an observer, is now literally forced into the kind of narrative he only ever consumed.
It really makes you wonder, right?
Totally. It leaves you with that big question. If the story you knew best, the one only you knew completely, suddenly became real, would that make you the ultimate survivor? Or just the person who understands the full horror from the get-go?
Heavy stuff to think about.
Definitely. Let us know what you think, and if you want us to keep digging into what happens next in this world.